Hello and welcome to this Astranti video. Today we'll be looking at a few of the different types of internal audit. Internal audits are undertaken by organisations as a means of managing particular risks that they face. And if you're studying for P3 or BA4, you'll have to have a good understanding of the various types of internal audit, since this is a topic that you could be examined on. This extract is from our video on Chapter 12 of our P3 course. But if you want to see the full video, this can be found on the Astranti website, where you can also find a whole range of study materials designed to help you pass your CIMA exams. But for now, let's jump in and consider the various types of internal audit.
So let's take a look at each of these individually. And we're going to start with compliance audits. Now, this is the kind of thing that you would think of when you perhaps think of internal audit from a very dictionary definition sense. This is what most people might assume internal audit to be. It's all about checking that procedures, that policies, etc. are being complied with. Checking that controls are being complied with, that they are applied effectively, and also identifying areas where they can be improved. And this can also help the organization to identify fraud. So, for example, if a company had a control in place where all deliveries must be signed for, and the value and the volume of the delivery must be noted down for purposes of checking to make sure that no one is then taking goods home with them and then understating the actual amount that was delivered. And this must be checked by another party. So what internal audit would do here is check that that control is being applied, that everyone is always correctly marking the value and the volume of the delivery. And this may identify fraud if they find that someone is not doing that. They are saying that they only got £9,000 worth of goods rather than 10,000, and then actually the extra 1,000 is sitting in the boot of their car. So let's think about how this would apply to a clothes retailer with regards to theft. If theft was the risk and the controls in place were to have tags on all of the different clothes and also to have security guards. Well, how an internal audit department would conduct a compliance audit would be to start by identifying the specific controls that have been put in place. So this could be those security tags and the security guards. What they would then do is test those controls. So maybe observe the security guards in action. Are they walking around and checking things, or are they just sitting around reading the newspaper? And also check that all the employees are always putting the tags on the clothes. What they'll then do is report on those controls. Say that, yes, the security guards are very good, they're always diligently walking around, etc. But half your employees just can't be bothered to put the tags on the clothes all the time. So they say that that particular control is not effective. What they'll then do is report on improvements. They'll suggest to management, suggest to the directors, etc., how they can be improved on, how the controls can be improved on. So this could be more training for staff members to make sure they know the importance of putting the tags on the clothes, and maybe remind them how to put the tags on the clothes if that is an issue. Then we have value for money auditing. So this is all about checking that the organization is spending its money effectively. And this is particularly relevant for public bodies, for the public sector, where there is no real drive to create profit. But of course, if you're using public funds, taxpayer money, etc., that there is an obligation to use that money effectively. And one way in which an internal auditor can conduct a value for money audit is to investigate the 3 E's. And these are effectiveness, efficiency, and economy. So let's look at an example to demonstrate these 3 E's using a hospital. Now, a hospital's effectiveness could be ultimately its end goal of making patients better. That's its end goal. That's why a hospital exists. And it might monitor that success by looking at the recovery rates. How many patients are readmitted to hospital after they have left? and also looking at the success rate of operations. If the hospital has a target that 95% of operations are a success, then they can monitor that progress. And if it turns out that only 80% of operations have been successful, the internal auditor will then be able to say that we are not achieving this goal. Then we have efficiency, which is all about operating as efficiently as possible and making sure that the organization is not wasting time and money. So again, for a hospital, this could be things like reducing the time taken for operations by perhaps bringing in new procedures that are more quick and effective, or using monitoring technology, which will allow computers and machines to monitor patients, monitor their vital signs, and thus reduce the need for so many staff members, and that will save costs. And also, economy is about operating as cheaply as possible. So for a hospital, it could be bulk purchasing equipment, bulk purchasing drugs, etc. So that you are buying all your bed linens, etc. in one big bulk and taking advantage of economies of scale rather than purchasing them individually as and when they are needed. And that will help keep costs down. And so the internal auditor using this freeze will ultimately be reviewing the success of the organization under these three separate headings: effectiveness, efficiency, and economy. And then it will report back to the managers, the directors, etc., and say that they think that we are being effective and we are being efficient, but we're not being as cheap as we could be. We're not saving money. We're not meeting our requirements under the economy part of the 3 E's, and suggest ways in which they can improve by bulk purchasing, for example. The next is management auditing. So here you are reviewing the manager's performance, the management of the organization, suggesting ways in which they can improve. So again, we're going to use the example of a clothes retailer, and a management audit of the clothes retailer could be looking at the achievement of targets. So if the manager has set a target for the organization to generate a certain amount of revenue or to make a certain amount of sales, then the audit department will look at whether they've achieved that target. Have they achieved their sales target? Will they look at perhaps the sales that they're making? Will they look at the footfall through the store, customer service, etc.? Could also be staff performance as well, looking at staff and how motivated staff are, the satisfaction of staff, the staff attendance as well, how many are calling in sick, and also the staff performance. So looking at each individual staff member, how many sales has each staff member made, etc. Adherence to rules and procedures. So this is more similar to the traditional idea of internal auditing that we saw in the compliance section. Have they adhered to the various particular pricing policies and staff policies that are within the organization? If not, are these controls not effective enough? And then also looking at operational efficiency, so the number of staff, looking at how many staff members are needed by the company. Do we have enough staff members? If we don't, why don't we? Do we need to hire more? If we have too many staff members, that we have so many staff that are just standing around doing nothing all the time because there's nothing for them to do, then we're not operating efficiently. And finally, achieving the budget targets as well. So looking at the cost targets that have been set. Has the company been overspending? And if so, why has it been overspending? And what can be done to improve it?
So that brings us to the end of today's video, and you should now be comfortable identifying these 3 types of internal audit. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are other types that you'll need to be aware of to pass your exams. You can learn about these in the full video. This can be found on the Astranti website as part of our full course. If you've liked what you've seen today, you can follow us on our social media accounts. We can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.